Hi YouTube, my name is Eric. If you're new visiting my channel, thank you for watching this video. Click the like and subscribe button. Make sure to join us. I'm a recovering addict. I deal with anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD on a daily basis. I fight a battle that most of us fight every single day, and I created and designed a channel and a movement around that of making sure that nobody goes through life alone. So make sure you click the like and subscribe button. Love to have you along for the journey with us. And to everybody who has subscribed, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
What's up, guys? It's CG Kid. So this is a podcast with somebody who is prescribed Adderall and takes it medicinally, and prescribed Xanax and takes it medicinally. I'm a person in my past, I abused both these drugs. I used them to get high recreationally. Not so much Xanax, but definitely Adderall. One of my drugs of choice was Adderall and methamphetamine. So we're just going to have a back and forth conversation to further understanding of how people react differently to various substances. For those new to this podcast, it's basically sharing our personal stories and experiences with addiction and recovery to further educate the general public and to give addicts and their loved ones hope that sobriety is possible. This guest in particular has a YouTube channel called Driven Industries, and it's about mental health awareness. So feel free to check him out as well. So I'm going to get it started. Let's talk a little bit about your experience. So, you what are your diagnoses is?
So, I've been diagnosed by multiple psychiatrists with ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADD originally when I was about 14. Then later on, they switched to ADHD. PTSD, depression and anxiety. And I use depression and anxiety as very broad terms because there are different types of anxieties and there's different types of depression all the way down to clinical depression. So it's easier term just to say depression than to start really trying to narrow it down, because then it comes to a 5-hour conversation. Those are the four that I've been diagnosed with. And I try to bring awareness to the other stuff. Yeah,
it sounds like a stew, like a bunch of things. And ADHD in particular fascinates me, so I think I'm curious to ask you about that and then really just go over this stew. But like, how did you know you had ADHD to a point where you felt like the need to see a doctor for it?
It wasn't actually me who felt the need to see a doctor. It was actually my dad. And so, like, I always, like, and just real straight talk, I thought I was stupid as a kid. Like, I literally just thought I was stupid. Like, I didn't know why people were smarter than me and how they'd get way better grades than I could, and they would do their homework and I couldn't do my homework, or I'd do a project and I forget it at home and I failed the project. And I could come up with these great ideas and things I wanted to do, and I would start a little bit of them, and then I'd all of a sudden have another great idea and I'd completely forget and lose passion of what I had started. And I was struggling massively in school, and this is right when my dad had started doing a lot of studying into ADD, and so he sent me to a psychiatrist. Her name was Dr. Ayers, and she was somebody that he had referred multiple people to, and she was becoming very, very big in central Michigan on ADD. So I went to her. They did a bunch of different testing, realized that, yeah, you are ADD. They got me on Ritalin, and I knew that I was instantly then ADHD, because literally 2 weeks on Ritalin, I went from, like, literally failing all my classes to, like, no problem passing everything. School became very easy. It became very easy for me to take notes. It became very easy for me to listen to others. It became easier for me, where I wasn't almost, like, trapped in my own head of, like, multiple fireworks going off that I couldn't focus on anything.
So you actually, because, like, the thing is, like, a normal person who takes Ritalin or Adderall typically will get much better grades. But you're saying that prior to taking Ritalin and Adderall, you felt like fireworks going off in your brain, and like where you couldn't keep like linear thoughts and focus on things like at all.
No, it like literally, like, my parents would have to be like, "Hey, you need to do this now." And I would get up and then, like, wander off, and they'd literally be pulling me back over and being like, "No, you need to focus on this." And, like, I would get very frustrated and very angry and very self-defeating.
It's very obvious, and it made you pretty much dysfunctional. Have you ever questioned your diagnosis later in life and, like, stopped taking medication? Because, like, it's one of those things that with, like, ADHD, it's like, you know, if I take Adderall, I'll get better grades. You know what I mean? But I think the difference between me and you is I could function without Adderall. Do you feel like it's hard to function? Because right now you're taking Adderall, right?
Right.
And what are you prescribed? Like, what do you take on a regular day?
So I'm prescribed, and what I take, and that's where, like, I love the addiction side of it, because it's something that I can't relate to, so I'm fascinated with, and I don't deviate from this. I literally take 10 milligrams between about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I take another 10 milligrams between noon and 1 o'clock, and that's all I take. So I take 20 milligrams a day.
Yeah, and so when you say there's like addiction side you don't have, what are the effects of Adderall like for you? Do you get high from it?
The only thing I get from it is I have to pee a lot, and I get the dry mouth, and that's it. Those are the only things that I have. And in fact, they say anxiety and depression, because a lot of times if you're prescribed an ADHD medicine, they'll prescribe a small antidepressant with it, because that is one of the side effects. And with me, it will literally kill my depression and anxiety, because I feel like I have control over my life and over my day. And I went 2 years without taking Adderall. It was a utter nightmare. And the reason I stopped is my wife at the time kept telling me it was all in my head and that you shouldn't be taking that shit. And so I stopped. And, like, I would miss bill payments. I would miss simple, like, normal things in life. Like, why is my phone shut off? Oh, shit, I haven't paid the bill in 3 months. And like, completely had spaced on it. And, like, a lot of the simple things I would just forget. I wouldn't write down. It wouldn't register in my brain that, hey, you have to go do this. And I just felt like I was muddling through life barely for 2 years, until I was finally like, you know what, enough's enough. I got to get back on it. And as soon as I did, I just watched everything turn around. I watched my job start to flourish and career start to flourish again. I was able to be on top of everything in my life. And multitasking all of a sudden didn't become an issue, because I could finish a project, move on to the next, and not try and take on everything all at once and not do anything.
So they have like a saying about in recovery, I'm sure you've heard it, that our lives have become unmanageable, and it sounds to me like your life is unmanageable without the medication, because you can't hold a train of thought. Like, you're all over the place mentally.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, Adderall helps make your life more manageable. Do you think that not taking Adderall and having things kind of fall apart could lead you to a relapse to what is your drug of choice?
Mine is alcohol.
Okay, do you think like not taking Adderall could make your life unmanageable to the point where you would drink alcohol again?
Oh yeah.
It's a very interesting it's a very interesting thing, because in recovery programs you have the recovery Nazis that would basically say that you're not really sober and like discredit everything you have to say and spit on you, because they have to have usually that means they have a small penis and they're trying to overcompensate for it with sobriety time. And I really am about spreading, like, you know, penis size awareness. It's the motion. It doesn't matter how big it is, but still some men feel the need to overcompensate for one. And have they ever like put you down for taking medication in recovery?
They have, and you know, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter the size that's in the pants, it's if you know how to use it. And,
yeah, exactly, you know, dude. I slap it on that face.
Give them exactly, just a little slap on the cheek. It's just a little and I have been called out for it, and like, hey, you're not sober because of this. And I try to explain to them, like with me, even I have to really. There's a lot of times that I literally have to put focus into not drinking, because, okay, for whatever godforsaken reason, I mean, I thrived on drinking, and it was just, it could not stop, and didn't, like, in a sense, for a long time, want to stop. And I can tell you every day that at least when I have a clear train of thought and a clear focus, it ensures that I don't go to the liquor store. It ensures that I don't just say, oh, fuck it, I can handle just one. And let my ego and everything get in the way of remembering, hey, this is how far you've come, and this is what you've accomplished, and how your life's improved. You know, I think that it actually plays a big role in my recovery. And like you said, you know, people do say, well, I know so-and-so who's, you know, popping 100 milligrams of Adderall a day, and they're doing it for weight loss and all this, and you're altering your mind. It's like, dude, my mind's altered if I don't take it. Like, I feel normal if I do take it.
That's so interesting to me, because I get manic when I take Adderall.
You know what's really weird is, could you sleep on Adderall?
Absolutely not. Not even 10 milligrams. Like, to me, that would be the equivalent of saying, can you sleep after you drink like 10 cups of coffee? No. Even 10 milligrams of Adderall ups me more than like so much coffee would.
Okay, so if you want to know a really weird fact, and I've actually proved this with Derek's brother, because we were both on the phone with him. When I take Adderall, I can literally go and take a nap at any time in the day now. Because it calms all the anxiety, it calms all of the, I got to do this, and oh my God, what else am I forgetting? It calms that whole brain cycle down, and it's like you have this hamster on a spinning wheel, and it stops. And my life becomes so much at peace of so focused that it's like my anxiety is lifted, my depression is lifted, and I can literally go lay down and take an hour nap without a problem, literally 30 minutes, 40 minutes after I've taken 10 milligram of Adderall.
That's so weird how everybody reacts differently. Did you get come downs, or do you get, like, if you stopped taking it, would you have, I mean, of course your life would get manageable, but do you feel like severely depressed?
No, and when I do get depressed, then if I'm off of it, it's not from necessarily coming down. It's literally a couple days later that it'll hit me. Like if I forget my Adderall and I really screw up like a day that was supposed to be very productive, it'll usually hit me like 2 days down the road, and it's more on the, 2 days ago, if I wouldn't have forgotten my Adderall, this shit would have been done. And now I'm trying to mop up, and oh my God, I just forgot that. And now all of a sudden it's like I feel like I'm playing catch up. That's the only time and the only way that the depression or anxiety actually ends up hitting me is because I realize that, the actions I did in that day, if they weren't to what I needed them to be, will catch up to me.
Wow. It's so interesting to me because when I take Adderall, I start coming down like literally 6 hours into it. Like before the medication or drug in my case, like it's not a medication for me, it's something I abuse recreationally. But even before it wears off, I start feeling the come down kicking in. So like 6 hours in, 8 hours in, as I'm coming down from the high, I actually feel the come down like starting to hit me. And then it's like the whole next day, like it feels just absolutely horrible. It's the only drug that I quit purely because the come down was so bad. So it's so weird to me. Everybody reacts so differently to different drugs. And I think in drug education, that's like the biggest lacking component is that people like want to make absolutes for everybody almost always. And they want to say, well, my friend was okay, so I'll be okay. But I honestly think like you take the same drug and you give it to 10 individuals and it's essentially 10 different drugs. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to react that different. Now, some are similar, and we see that and document it, but if 7 out of those 10 are similar, it doesn't discredit the 3 out of 10 that are unique. That, this stuff can help. And that's like the biggest fear on my channel is that I scare people away from these medications. And that's something I've been more on top of lately. I just think that they're a last resort kind of deal. I think that you should try everything prior to medication, like exercise, nutrition, clearing clutter, getting outside. Simply because you might not actually have that illness. It could be like a adverse psychological reaction to like a preservative like MSG or gluten. And this is just theory. I'm not a nutritionist expert. It could be, that social media is making you bounce around too much in your head, and it's actually like a psychological thing. Regardless, though, if you try everything else, once you take that medication, you'll know that you need it, and you won't go back on it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you'll start, at least for me, I would start questioning 6 months in. Do I really need to take Adderall every day? Maybe I should try this, which is kind of like a dangerous thing. Because then you've been on Adderall every day for like 6 months, and now you're going to just stop it and try what you probably should have done at first, Mm-hmm. And that's just like my views on it.
And I agree with you so much. Is it's like because people will come up to you, especially like the funny thing is like my dad was a doctor, so people would come up with me and be like, "Hey, do you think this is infected, or do you think that this works?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not a doctor."
Yeah.
And people come up to you and being ADD is something that gets thrown around a lot. And they're like, "Oh, you can't focus, or you're too energetic. Maybe you're ADD." And it's like, no, go to the doctor and do the trial and error because, like, I'm very, very pro Adderall. But I also know that it's not for everyone because of how our chemicals in our brain are different, how we're all different. And it's finding what works for you and working it with your doctor and then having that communication as if it's not working or something all of a sudden ends up happening that you're like, dude, this isn't right. And you're taking that inventory of yourself. You're calling the doctor. You're stopping the medication and you're finding out then what works for you. instead of saying, well, this is supposed to work, so I'll just keep taking it.
What's your message? Like, this is like something that I hope to accomplish with my channel is parents thinking more than once about it. Because, I mean, I don't know if you're aware of this, but they actually prescribe Adderall to toddlers, like ages 2 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And they prescribe it to a lot of kids that are under the age of 18. And, you know, not even to get political, but we have this whole, it's her body, her choice. Well, I get messages, I don't respond to them because they're minors, but it's like, you know, 13-year-olds that are essentially saying that they know the medication is making them high. They know they're not having a good reaction. Their come downs are making them severely depressed, but their parents are forcing them to take it. And I think that, you know, parents, it's just easier. I'm not a parent, so I don't understand the struggle, but what I imagine is when you're struggling to pay the bills and you're struggling to get them to school and do this and do that, when it comes down to like ADD, it's easier to just hand them a pill. That's one case where they just simply, you know, don't have the time to mess with it. They don't have the time to clear clutter, get them off social media, get them on a much better diet, and explore holistic options first. The other case is that they don't understand that everybody reacts differently to every drug, and while doctors they don't understand that doctors is a trial process. They just think the doctor's always right. He said it. No matter what my son says, I'm going to discredit my son and just trust the doctor rather than go to the doctor, express these concerns, get them off the medication, try a different type of medication, or try alternative methods. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I totally do, and I think a lot of parents like, and that's where I love because you can almost relate and try and tie in everything. Where it comes down to even like the suicide hotline, like when somebody dies, everyone goes through and posts all the hotlines, and they feel that they did their due diligence. Just like with a parent, if their kid's struggling, they took them to one doctor once. The doctor said they have this, they prescribed them some drug, and they think that I did my due diligence. There's the cure-it-all. It's all handled, and they don't realize that, no, like, there's a process that comes to it, and I get that we get tied up and busy in life, and same as you, I'm not a parent, but I've done speaking at schools where I'm very pro Xanax, which is a benzo, that I know people that, I've had friends that have died from drinking and benzos, that have went to sleep and never woke back up. It doesn't mean, though, that I'm 100% against them, though, but I've ran into students that are in like middle school that are prescribed Xanax for social anxiety is what the doctor said. And I'm looking at them going, dude, you are like way too young to be at any point of where any doctor in the right mind is going to be giving a 12-year-old Xanax. And that stuff blows my mind. It's like, this is last resort stuff of trial and error. You know, let's do the different approaches, like you said, try the diet, try the limiting them from social media. Try getting them outside and just playing outside and being a kid instead of cramming a bunch of shit down their throat and thinking, okay, they're going to take all this and they're fine now.
Exactly. I mean, it's one of those things that, and in Xanax, it's funny how we're so different in that sense. Because like Xanax, I consider to be the most dangerous drug in the world for me. Like, I literally stopped. I think that my reaction to Xanax is actually appropriate, like, because I don't really get high off of it. I always thought of it as an overly glorified sleeping pill when I try to get high off of it. That being said, for some reason, like, when I reach a certain threshold, say like 2 milligrams, I want to eat them like candy, and I wake up the next day like with puke on the side of my car, don't know what the fuck I did, and hearing all these horror stories. But it's like, there was a point in time where I was taking Valium for anxiety, and this was during my addiction, and the way I took it wasn't really recreational. I actually just took it before I went to work, because it seemed like my days at work would it's not that I was like really overly anxious at my job, but it seemed, and this is when I was working at like Sam's Club, I was like a cashier. It wasn't really that I was overly anxious at my job. It was like I was anxious not about people. It wasn't social anxiety. I was anxious about leaving work. Like, I just wanted to leave the whole day, like really anxious about it. So I would take like I think around 10 milligrams of Valium, like diazepam, and I would only take it before work, so the day would go by a lot faster because I wouldn't be so anxious about leaving. So I think our reactions to things like benzos might actually be more similar. I just think, it is a recreational drug. It doesn't make sense. And one of the things I worry about personally as an addict is it does lower my inhibitions. I do have even though I'm one of those people, dude, I just like being altered. Like, I got addicted to Benadryl. I mean, I have that. I've been addicted to Robitussin. So even if Xanax doesn't really get me high in a recreational sense, I would worry if I had it on hand that I would take it in high doses just to be altered. Not, I'd want to just be altered one night. I'd want to like pass out or whatever, like really sleep deep or whatever, go into like a Xanax coma.
And see, that's where I find it fascinating when I hear that, because like with me, in my medicine cabinet is Adderall and Xanax. I don't even think twice of that. But now if I have a beer that somebody had brought over and we had a party or whatever and there was leftover alcohol and that's in the fridge and hadn't been dumped out, like I will focus like on that. Like I can be sitting watching TV knowing that there are 3 beers in the fridge. And like have that rent space in my brain where the other one doesn't rent any space in my brain. That's
so weird to me because they're both, what is it, GABA receptor agonists. They both have similar actions. Well, how does alcohol make you feel different than Xanax?
Alcohol just, however it triggers my brain, it makes me feel like, however I have it wired, that I'm more fun, I'm more open, and I'm going to have more energy, and I'm more excitable. And I have just zero fear and no problem talking to people. And especially since I'm in sales and always have been, I'm always dealing with people. And it made me more joking around, and it made me less rigid. And I could come up with all these positives that it did for me, where, like with Xanax, like I'll take half a bar of Xanax if it gets really, really bad. And how it's prescribed to me is use as directed, essentially. And in any given month, I might take 1 milligram total of Xanax. And like I even did a video on Xanax and Adderall, because I've taken Adderall and then ended up throughout that day taking a Xanax, because the anxiety for me will get so crippling that like literally I'll feel like I'm having a heart attack. I'm crawling out of my skin, like just paralyzed. And when I take that and it kicks in, it's like my brain just took a breath, and I get up and I don't even contemplate, or the concept doesn't even hit my brain of, well, man, maybe I should take like 2 bars right now and just feel really good. It's like, oh, I can breathe again.
What
was I working on?
Yeah, have you ever abused it? Have you ever taken a high dose of Xanax before?
Nope.
Do you think that could play a role in the like lack of temptation?
I think it could. With Adderall, I mean, when I did the whole trial and error thing, they had upped my dosage to one point to like, I want to say it was like 80 milligrams a day, where it was like Jesus. 40 and 40. I mean, it was a massive amount. And I literally did it for one day, called the doctor and said, nope. And the reason why is it didn't make me high in that sense, like it calmed me down, but it almost made me hyper-focused, where all of a sudden I was so hyper-focused on one project that I couldn't finish the project because it wasn't perfect. Which was, and I knew that that's not how it should react with me. And so I called up the doctor, and then we backed it down to 60. That lasted a day. And then after that, he's like, screw it, let's go back to the 10 and 10. That's where you're at.
It sounds like your intentions were clear. When you took like, say 20 milligrams at a time, you didn't get really high on it?
No, it didn't do anything.
It didn't. It's amazing to me because you're talking about how alcohol made you talkative and outgoing and stuff, and yet you're saying 20 milligrams of Adderall didn't do that same exact thing for you.
No, what it ended up doing is just hyper focusing me to the point that I'd get frustrated extremely quick, and I can still remember the day like extremely well, because I would get so angry. And that was one of the things that would happen when I was younger, because I couldn't focus in on things. I'd get very angry and frustrated, so I had a bit of a temper issue, that all of a sudden the projects weren't to my standard or whatever. I don't fully remember what I was working on that day. I lived in El Cajon, California at the time, but like I could not finish the project because it wasn't done right. And it was, I know it was around my house, and I remember that, but I started just noticing that I was just getting angry and frustrated. Instead of like, oh man, let me pop a couple more of these and I'm going to feel even better, it was like, don't come near me, don't come around me, because this isn't right, and I have to finish this.
So this all is really interesting to me, and I think that it's important to document this kind of content. Like Adderall, my story with Adderall is I used to take it for school. Did I need it? No. My thing was that I was type of person to procrastinate things to the night before, and then I didn't eat it the night before because I had to study for like 4 exams and write an essay, and then I'd end up getting like a C and a B in those classes. But I just didn't like studying on a regular basis, and that's like, I'm just a disorganized personality, but I could have done it had I wanted to. You know, it was physically possible for me. So then it's when I did meth, I realized that, hey, watching porn on amphetamines is awesome. And I would like just sit there and fap for like 7 days and nights while I would just be fapping myself and painting pentagrams on the wall with semen and stuff like that. And so then like I took Adderall and I realized that it made me very sexual as well. And then I remember taking it to study a couple times after that, and I ended up just like watching, you know, a munchkin giving a blumpkin on Pornhub for like 8 hours. And I'm just wondering if does it like increase your sex drive, Adderall?
You know what? It actually doesn't. And like, you hit a bunch of different things right there. Of one, like the way that, because I'm not a doctor, the only thing that I've ever told people, like, if you're really curious if you're ADHD, you know, see how caffeine affects you, because caffeine naturally affects somebody that's ADHD differently than somebody who's not. One of the quick home remedies is that if you don't have any of your medication, or you run out and you're really having trouble focusing, is to get some caffeine in your system, because caffeine has like a reverse effect on us for whatever reason of how our chemicals in our brain are, that it will actually calm us down. Like, I can sleep after 10 cups of coffee, or I can sleep after drinking a Red Bull. The other thing is you know, people say that they get like super sexual, and I've done meth 3 times in my life, and it wasn't by choice, and people always laugh at that, but it really wasn't. And I snorted it because people would say it was coke. And then you snort it and realize that you just like snorted glass shards up your nose and it's burning like a motherfucker. But it would not make me sexual at all.
Like, how do you compare the effects of meth to Adderall? This is like a very interesting topic for you, for somebody that has ADHD.
That with meth, I could sleep. And I know that sounds fucking insane. And a lot of the people, and I've only talked to a couple different people that actually were like, yeah, I could too. Like, I did meth. I'd get extremely upset that I did it. I would go home and I'd actually get some stuff done. Like, I would leave the party because I'd be that upset because I knew what I had done. And I knew that those weren't the people I wanted to be around, because I was very big on the different boundaries. But I would go home and I would like literally like, I would clean some of my house, and then I would start a project and finish it, and then I'd go lay down and go to sleep. And like, I had no desire to fucking jack off. Like, anything sexual, no. Even now with my Adderall, like, if my wife wants to get it on in the middle of the day and I'm in the middle of all my to-do list and what I want to get accomplished, like, I have no desire to have sex. And it will frustrate her, and she'll be like, what, don't you find me attractive and stuff? It's like, no, I want to get this stuff done, and, you know, sex isn't really on my mind right now, where with some people, I mean, they'll even prescribe Adderall to some that have issues when it comes to sex because it increases sex drive. And like with me, I can't fathom that because it doesn't do that for me.
Oh God, it makes me like ridiculous. And it's really weird how people react differently to drugs, because MDMA would give me soft dick. Like, I could not get hard for anything, but I hear like other people can. And then I hear Adderall gives people soft dick, and it doesn't do that to me. And that's what's interesting to me, because one increases serotonin, one increases dopamine, and different people react different that way, and it's so obvious to me. I don't know firsthand, so to speak, just from what I've heard. But does like Adderall give you soft dick?
Yeah, Adderall does not. Like, if I really want to like screw over my sex life, it would be like I would like take a higher dosage of Adderall later on in the day so that at night it doesn't wear off as quickly. And like, I'd have no sex life. And the weird thing is alcohol, for whatever reason, increased the hell out of my sex drive.
See, it didn't do that for me.
Look,
alcohol is like one of those like, it's interesting to me. Does Adderall make it where you can't get an erection?
Oh no, I can get an erection. I can get hard.
It's just like you're less interested. That's so weird. Like, it's so interesting how everyone reacts so differently. And I kind of get how you compare alcohol to Xanax, because Xanax to me is like alcohol without as much euphoria. Like, it's not as much of an upper. Like, if I took 2 milligrams of Xanax, I could fall asleep within 10 minutes. If I drank like 6 beers, yeah, I'll feel sleepy, but I'll be laying there for at least an hour. or 40 minutes. And that extra 30 minutes is a big difference because alcohol makes me more up than Xanax does. It's almost like DXM versus ketamine, too. Like, people always want me to make a video on ketamine. I didn't like ketamine. I would say DXM is like the alcohol version of ketamine. Like, it's more up, and the serotonin is obviously up, whereas ketamine's like just pure clean dissociation. And it's like with alcohol, it's more of the up, like some in it is making you, like, making it an upper, where Xanax is more just like the pure clean lack of anxiety. But some people get high as fuck on Xanax and get euphoric as hell, and they don't care for alcohol that much. And that's like a very interesting thing, and I'm really glad that we went over this topic because...
No, it is. I find it super fascinating because, you actually kind of... It triggered again in my head of just thinking about, like, the people that I've talked to that have said that, Adderall, like, just makes them just horny as hell. And every time anyone's ever said that, I'm like, I don't know anyone else that's really happened to. Like, I don't understand it.
Yeah, I feel you there. All right, man. It was really good having you. We definitely need to do another show in the future. I'm really curious to learn more about your background with depression and anxiety, and we should do that on another podcast or maybe perhaps on YouTube or something. I'm looking forward to meeting up with you in LA.
Yeah, sure. Here.
Yeah, this is Driven Industries on YouTube. It's a mental health channel. It seeks to spread awareness on mental health and let you guys know you're not alone. And he does beautiful things. I mean, he helped me through a state of depression with his videos. It helps to just see somebody speak about it. And he also, you can reach out to him via social media, and he's very responsive to messages. And he has a purpose of trying to fix the suicide crisis line, because currently you get on hold for 20 minutes, and he's advocating for a change in that, which I think is super important considering suicide is one of the leading causes of death in men. So I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing a condom on your head on your next live stream.
Definitely, brother. You know it.
All right. I love you, bro. Thank you so much.
Love you too, man.
Peace.
Later.